Welcome to Wynnewood Refining Company. We want your time spent here to be safe, so today we're going to introduce you to our refinery safety and security program and work procedures. But first, a little about our operation. Wynnewood Refining processes approximately 80,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Crude oil enters the facility by pipeline and truck transport. The crude is then refined into finished products that include asphalt, LPG, jet fuel, gasoline, and diesel. These products are delivered to retail markets via truck, pipeline, and rail. A safe operation is the first consideration of our business. Safety, security, and health are a part of every operation and are everyone's responsibility. It is the intent of Wynnewood Refining to comply with all laws concerning the operation of our business and the health, safety, and security of our employees and the public. To do this, we must constantly be aware of conditions in all work areas that can produce or lead to injuries. Your cooperation in detecting hazards, reporting dangerous conditions, and controlling workplace hazards is a condition of employment. Inform your supervisor immediately of any potentially dangerous situations beyond your ability to correct. Following the procedures set forth in this video will significantly reduce the risk of danger to you and your coworkers. The following safety and security guidelines and safe work practices are intended to help ensure the safety of all employees, contractors, and visitors to our facility, as well as the protection of equipment and property. Observance of these guidelines is critical and therefore required by Wynnewood Refining for entry into this facility. Failure to comply with our safety and security requirements may result in your removal from our refinery. These procedures are to be considered the minimum standards applying to all personnel and visitors. Additional rules may apply to each job. Prior to performing work at the Wynnewood Refinery, your company must ensure that you have received all the environmental health and safety training required for the task that you are here to perform. We will require your company to verify that you have received this training. Maintaining a secure environment for the refinery and its occupants is considered an integral part of the overall safety for the refinery. In addition, the refinery is subject to federal security regulations that require specific levels of security measures be maintained as part of our security program. All employees, contract employees, and visitors are expected to adhere to the security rules. All instances of suspicious behavior that appear to be a potential security threat should be reported to management immediately. The refinery is staffed with a security force that is responsible to maintain security for the site. The refinery security program includes the use of security devices and electronic equipment to aid in the monitoring and maintaining of security at required levels. Some of the security program components include the identification of persons entering and exiting the refinery, conducting inspections of vehicles and items brought into and out of the refinery, and the investigation of alarms and potential breaches of security. The security force is also charged with the monitoring and enforcement of several refinery safety rules. Occupants of the refinery are expected to comply with the request of security officers in the execution of their duties. Attempts to circumvent security measures such as climbing over fences, opening alarmed gates and doors without approval, tampering with or deactivating security equipment are prohibited, and personnel involved in such activity are subject to disciplinary action. Security badges are issued to personnel to enable access to various areas within the refinery based on their specific work and the areas where the access has been granted. Security badges must be carried at all times while in the refinery and must be presented to refinery security or management when requested. The security badge readers in use at the refinery are a proximity type, where it is necessary to present the security badge within 1 to 2 inches of the reader in order for the badge to be read correctly by the security system. Presenting the security badge carried in a wallet or purse to a reader may not work in all circumstances. Successful badge reads are indicated by a green light on the face of the badge reader. Unsuccessful badge reads are indicated by a red light on the face of the badge reader. Security badges are issued on an individual basis. Personnel are required to use the badge specifically issued to them by security. Use of a security badge not explicitly issued to you is prohibited. All persons passing through the badge reader controller gates, turnstiles, and doors must scan their badge. Entering through a badge reader-controlled gate, turnstile, or door without scanning your security badge is not allowed. Personnel should not use their badge to enable the entry of others who do not have a badge. Passengers and vehicles that pass through reader-controlled gates are expected to scan their badge in addition to the driver of the vehicle. At vehicle gates equipped with pedestrian turnstiles, the vehicle passengers may be required to exit from the vehicle and pass through the reader-controlled turnstiles. The security officer on duty at the gate will provide instructions on when passengers must pass through the turnstiles. In addition to ensuring only authorized personnel are granted access to the refinery, the Security Badge Access Control System is used to provide reports to account for personnel in the event of an emergency evacuation. It is essential for your own safety that you scan your badge when you enter and exit the refinery. Lost or stolen security badges should be reported to security immediately so that steps can be taken to prevent the badge from being used by an unauthorized person to gain entry into the refinery. In addition to lost or stolen security badges, damaged badges can be replaced by contacting the Security Badging Office. Temporary badges are available from security for employees and contractors who have misplaced or forgotten their security badge. Contractors needing a replacement badge may be subject to a replacement fee. Wynnewood Refining has a strict facial hair policy. You will not be issued a photo ID badge until you comply with the facial hair policy. Vehicle parking for contract employees is provided at the south end of the refinery. After parking your vehicle, enter the refinery through the turnstile. Report to your supervisor or your Wynnewood representative. Vehicular entry into the facility is restricted and is controlled at the north, south, and southwest guard gates. Contractor vehicles must have specific permits for access to the facility. Contractor companies will need to work with their refinery contact to arrange for a vehicle access permit. The contractor's company name must be displayed on the exterior of vehicles authorized to enter through the security gates. The sign needs to be visible from 50 feet. While driving in and around our facility, we require you obey all posted traffic control signs and speed limits. Maximum speed in the refinery is 15 miles per hour. You will also wear seat belts while inside the refinery. No riders are allowed in the back of pickups or on flatbeds. All persons and vehicles on refinery property are subject to search and inspection by security. Alcohol and drugs are prohibited. Do not come to work on Wynnewood refining property while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. You must have a status of current in the DESA Contractors Consortium, DCC. Possession of drugs and alcohol on refinery property is prohibited. Keep in mind that some prescription and over-the-counter medications may create an unsafe work condition as well. Possession of firearms is not permitted on refinery property. Smoking is only allowed in designated areas because flammable materials are present in the refinery. Taking and/or disseminating photographs and/or video images of refinery personnel, property, and/or equipment without prior refinery management approval is strictly forbidden. Emergency reporting and response. The successful outcome of emergency situations depends on the timely reporting of an emergency so that the proper resources can respond to the emergency. In order to provide rapid means for reporting emergencies, call 6666 using in-plant phones, or call 405-665-6666 via cell phone. This number rings at Central Control, which is staffed continuously. Emergencies can also be reported on the refinery radio system, Channel 1. When reporting emergencies, try to remain calm and provide the necessary information needed to understand what the specific problem is and the location of the emergency. Wynnewood Refinery has a voice instruction emergency alert notification system, Emergency Alert and Notification System, EANS, which requires immediate response by all individuals in the affected area of the refinery. All employees will follow instructions provided by the alarm system depending on what the emergency is and your location within the refinery. The Emergency Alert Notification System will alert you to a gas release, fire, severe storm threat, and all clear. The system sounds like this.
Gas release. Alky unit. Fire. Alky unit. Severe weather alert. All clear.
If you're in an area of the refinery affected by the emergency alert and notification system, you will secure your job and evacuate safely to the nearest safe area or severe weather shelter. Once safe from the emergency, report to your supervisor for accountability and additional instruction. Operator shelters are suggested as shelter-in-place locations for severe storm alerts. There are also 4 additional designated storm shelters located inside the refinery. Contract supervisors are responsible for accountability of their employees and to report this information to their refinery contact. If you are in any type of vehicle near an affected area by the EANS notification, pull to the side of the roadway, place the vehicle in park, turn off the ignition, leave the keys in the vehicle, and evacuate to the nearest safe area. If refinery evacuation is required, exit through one of the guard gates and badge out. If you're unable to reach one of the guard gates, leave through the red and white striped gates and ensure you're accounted for. If lightning is present, the EANS will activate to stop all non-essential work. The EANS will also announce the all clear to go back to work. Wind socks are located in several locations throughout the facility to allow choosing the safest evacuation path. Always know where wind socks are located and check wind direction often while working in the refinery. Personal protective equipment. Employees, contractors, and visitors are required to wear FRC clothing as their outermost layer at all times inside the process area, regardless of work activity. Shirt tails are to be tucked in. Safety glasses are required at all times while working inside an operating unit. When there is a danger of flying particles or corrosive materials, employees must wear protective goggles and/or face shields. Employees are required to wear protective gloves, aprons, and face shields in areas where they may be subject to cuts, corrosive liquids, or harmful chemicals. Safety footwear, safety glasses, and side shields, hearing protection, and hard hats are required at all times while working inside a process area. Approved safety harnesses and lanyards must be worn when working from unprotected elevations of 6 feet or greater. Unprotected levels are defined as those levels without guardrails. Personal H2S gas monitors must be worn at all times while working inside the refinery. If your personal H2S monitor alarms, you will stop work and evacuate the area, crosswind, upwind, and uphill, and then notify operations. Supplied breathing air is required when ambient H2S levels exceed 10 parts per million. Respiratory protection is also required for certain jobs when working with certain materials. Sandblasting, painting, asbestos removal, flare entry, insulation work, and confined space entry are examples of these types of jobs. Respirators may be used either as protective safety equipment or for emergencies. Therefore, all employees should recognize that respirators are stored in clean, sanitary, and convenient locations and are inspected on a regular basis. Contractor employees required to wear a respirator must be covered by a respiratory protection plan, which includes training, medical surveillance, and fit testing. Contractors are responsible for providing all of their own personal protective equipment, except in the ALKI unit, which will be discussed later in this video. Work control processes. Unit sign-in. Prior to making entry into any process area, employees must sign into the unit at the operations shelter, or the work group representative must provide a list of the crew members to operations. Employees should make contact with an operator to communicate the purpose of the entry and understand the current unit conditions. Employees or work group representatives must sign workers out of the unit when complete. Safe work permits. Prior to beginning any maintenance, construction, or demolition work, a safe work permit must be obtained from operations. This permit is obtained following sign-in at the operating shelter. The safe work permitting process, including a job walkdown, is used to identify hazards associated with the work and any additional permits that may be required to perform the work. For areas outside of operations control, the Wynnewood Safety Department should be contacted for assistance. The importance of obtaining a safe work permit prior to beginning work cannot be overemphasized. If you are outside of a permit-exempted area, such as a warehouse, and you are manipulating a tool, piece of equipment, or machine, you must obtain a safe work permit to proceed. Other permits used at this facility include hot work permits. Activities, equipment, or work methods that produce high-energy ignition sources, such as grinding, welding, cutting, or open flame, require a hot work permit. Confined space entry permits. A confined space entry permit, along with a safe work permit, is required for entry into any permit-required confined space. Entry into these spaces must be rigorously controlled to prevent serious injury or death. Before entry into a confined space, all impellers, agitators, or other moving equipment contained in the confined space must be locked and tagged out. Ventilation must be either natural or mechanically provided into the confined space. Atmospheric tests should be performed to check for oxygen content, explosive concentration, and toxicity. Excavation permits. Excavation permits are required prior to beginning any excavation with mechanical equipment. Wynnewood Refining requires excavations over 4 feet deep contain a safety system such as sloping, benching, shoring, or shielding to protect against cave-ins before entry is made. Ladders must be provided for egress every 25 feet in excavations 4 feet or deeper. If any other permits or additional forms are required prior to the commencement of work, they will be identified by operations during the safe work permitting process. Lockout tagout. Lockout tagout is an extremely important element of our refinery safety program. Contract companies must comply with Wynnewood Refinery lockout tagout requirements. The purpose of the lockout tagout procedure is to protect personnel from injury while working in, on, or around equipment during repair or maintenance due to any unexpected startup or energization. All employees are required to verify lockout tagout. The procedure applies to energy sources such as, but not limited to, electrical, mechanical, gravity, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, and thermal. The procedure requires that when repair or maintenance operations are being performed on equipment, all energy sources to that equipment be locked and tagged out, and the employees conducting the work have their personal lock on the group lockout box. All energy isolation devices, block valves, blinds, physical piping disconnect, etc., will be identified to contractor employees by Wynnewood Refining personnel prior to work beginning. Lockout devices shall only be removed by the person who applied the device. To remove lockout devices installed by unavailable personnel, contact an operator from the unit involving the lock to be removed. Hazard communication. Wynnewood Refinery has trained its employees on the globally harmonized system of HazCom. You may see the new pictograms for GHS on chemical totes, along with the NFPA 704 on tanks, and the HMIS labeling system identifying hazards of various chemicals and products. GHS also refers to MSDSs as SDSs. When hazardous substances are used in the workplace, a hazard communication program dealing with safety data sheets, SDS, container labeling, and employee training must be used. Safety data sheets for chemicals found at this facility are available upon request. SDS information is readily available at any of the operator shelters throughout the refinery. Contractors must have approval before bringing new chemicals into the facility. Contact the Wynnewood Safety Group for assistance with this process. Contractors are responsible for ensuring hazardous chemicals they bring into the refinery are properly labeled. Federal and state regulations also mandate strict disposal procedures for chemicals. To comply with these regulations, all personnel using Wynnewood refining facilities must observe these disposal procedures. Contact the Wynnewood Environmental Group for assistance with proper disposal procedures. Hazard communication labels are found on many vessels and containers throughout this facility. This label, the NFPA 704, is used to inform you of the hazardous characteristics of the material inside. The red quadrant denotes the degree of fire hazard. The blue quadrant denotes the degree of health hazard. The yellow quadrant denotes the degree of instability reactivity hazard. The white section denotes a special hazard such as use no water or corrosive. The number in each quadrant defines the level of hazard for each characteristic. 0 means no hazard. 1 indicates minimal hazard. 2 indicates substantial hazard. 3 indicates severe hazard. And 4 indicates the hazard is extreme and immediately dangerous. The safety data sheet for the chemicals you're working with will provide this information. Significant quantities of the following hazardous materials may be found in this facility: gasoline, diesel jet fuels, liquefied petroleum gas, hydrogen, nitrogen, hydrogen sulfide, several acids including hydrofluoric and sulfuric, anhydrous ammonia, methanol, liquid asphalt, caustic liquids, various flammable solvents, lead paint. Asbestos is a carcinogen and may be found in pipe and vessel insulation. Notify a refinery supervisor if you observe disturbed asbestos insulation. Asbestos insulation is clearly marked with red banding. Blue banding indicates the insulation material is non-asbestos. If in doubt, treat the material as asbestos-containing and notify your supervisor. Scaffolds and ladders. Scaffolds will only be erected, modified, and dismantled by an OSHA-defined competent person. Scaffolds at the refinery use a tagging system consisting of red, yellow, and green tags. Red tagged scaffolds indicate the scaffold is not ready for service and will not be utilized. Yellow tagged scaffolds that have a current inspection date may be used after the users read the hazards on the tag and follow the special instructions. Personal fall protection must be worn if indicated on the scaffold tag. Green tagged scaffolds may be used after verifying a current inspection has been performed. Ladders must rise 3 feet above the work surface and be tied off when in use and stored properly when not in use. All ladders shall be inspected prior to use and removed from service if defective. Ladders shall be rated for a minimum of 300 pounds, and no metal ladders will be used when working around electrical equipment. Incident/accident reporting. Contractors should immediately report all incidents or near misses to unit operations, regardless of severity. Near misses should be reported so unsafe conditions can be investigated and corrected. For incidents occurring outside the process areas, contact the safety department immediately. Contractors must always immediately report all fires, property damage, leaks, and spills, regardless of severity. Upon occurrence of a personal injury on refinery property, a first report of injury must be provided to a refinery supervisor as soon as possible, but no later than the end of the shift. Contractor companies and their employees are required to participate with all incident investigations involving their workers. Housekeeping. Work sites must be clean and orderly. Work surfaces must be kept dry or appropriate means taken to assure the surfaces are slip-resistant. Spills must be cleaned up immediately. All combustible scrap, debris, and waste must be stored safely and removed promptly. The accumulated combustible dust must be removed routinely. Make sure all pits and floor openings are either covered or otherwise guarded. Contractors shall practice good housekeeping in all areas of their operation. Scrap materials and rubbish shall be disposed of appropriately. Keep all walkways, doorways, and fire extinguishers free of obstacles and trip hazards. Waste. General trash should be placed in the properly marked receptacles. Keep chemicals, paints, paint cans, and other hazardous waste segregated from general trash. Scrap metal to be thrown away cannot contain oil or chemicals. Scrap metal must be disposed of in the designated area. It is extremely important that you notify company personnel immediately in the event of any spill or release of any chemical. Contact the Environmental Department for assistance in labeling of waste containers. HF acid and the alkylation unit. The alkylation unit, the alky, is a process unit that utilizes hydrofluoric acid, HF, in the process of creating alkylates, a high-octane blending compound. The unit perimeter is clearly marked by a 4-inch concrete curb that is painted yellow. Every surface inside the curb is to be considered contaminated with the potential of HF exposure. Although this section will focus on HF acid and the hazards associated with it, the unit utilizes large amounts of caustic materials as well. HF acid is highly volatile and poses severe risk to both worker health and the environment. HF differs from other acids because of the acute toxicity to exposure with fluorides binding with the calcium in the body. Unlike other acids, which are rapidly neutralized, this process may continue for days if left untreated. Work inside the alky unit may only be performed after the Safe Work Permit process is complete. Alky permits are colored differently than other work permits at the refinery to designate work in the acid section of the unit. During the permit process, a communications plan will be established between the work group representative and the unit operators that generally utilize direct radio contact. PPE to be used will be established by unit operators for the work to be done. Contractors can elevate the level of PPE required by operations, but must not lower the level. Alky PPE. Work in the alky unit requires specialized PPE to ensure work can be completed safely. The alky unit will provide this additional PPE. The described work for each level of PPE is general, and operations permit issuers may require an upgrade to a more stringent level of PPE based on unit operating conditions. Level D PPE. Chemical impervious slicker jacket, chemical impervious gloves, gauntlet style, outer. Nitrile gloves, inner. Alky unit hard hat with chemical resistant face shield. Safety goggles. Typical level D work, meter reading, pressure gauge reading, visual unit inspection, unit write-up or walkthrough, entry into acid section by Wynnewood Refining Operations Group, supervision personnel and safety personnel when potential exposure with HF acid is unlikely. Level C PPE, chemical impervious slicker jacket, chemical impervious slicker overall style pants, nitrile gloves, inner, chemical impervious gloves, gauntlet type, outer, Alky unit hard hat with chemical resistant face shield, safety goggles, approved Wynnewood Refining safety-toed footwear. Typical level C work, working on equipment that has been neutralized, vented, and drained of liquid, lubricating valves and pumps. Level B PPE. Chemical impervious bib overall style slicker pants, gauntlet style chemical impervious gloves sealed at the jacket sleeve, nitrile gloves inner layer, chemical impervious footwear, boots, slip over boot protector, air supplied chemical impervious hood or hood jacket combo. Typical level B work, applying force to small lines and valves that may fail, performing the initial opening of any equipment that contained HF acid or HF acid hydrocarbon mixture, preparing equipment for repair that may contain HF or HF acid hydrocarbon mixture, initial blinding of equipment or first opening after blind installation, directly involved in the unloading, loading of HF acid to the alkylation unit. Level A PPE. Full encapsulated suit. Supplied air respirator or self-contained breathing apparatus is required for use with this PPE. Level A PPE is generally for emergency use only. A radio should be worn inside the suit for positive remote communications. It's important to note that exposure to HF acid may occur during the donning and doffing of the elevated PPE. It is imperative that workers use caution and good practices to ensure that the outside layer of PPE does not come into contact with skin. Alky decon. All materials, tools, and equipment brought into the Alky must be deconned prior to leaving the unit. Specific items such as harnesses, tool bags, and handheld electrical equipment that pose a challenge to the normal decon process should be discussed with unit operators prior to their introduction into the process area. Avoid the use of wood and leather inside the process area. Alky first aid. Specialized medical treatment protocols focused on the specific treatment of HF acid have been established and vetted. It is critical that workers report all potential HF exposures to operations immediately for rapid and aggressive treatment. Safety showers are alarmed, so unit operations will be alerted to an activated shower and will respond accordingly. As symptoms may be delayed, you will be provided with a contact card for reporting possible exposures after your work shift has ended. Alky unit introduction. Upon a worker's first visit to the Alky unit, unit supervision will conduct a tour of the unit, safety showers, and the hot-cold rooms. This is for the benefit of you, the worker, so we encourage you to communicate openly in order that you feel comfortable with the processes and ask any questions you may have. Continual improvement process. Wynnewood Refinery conducts periodic reviews of contractor safety performances. During the execution of the contractor's work, company employees will periodically observe the contractor's performance with respect to government regulations, company safety rules, and applicable work permits. Our contracting strategy uses this information to assist in the selection of contractors to perform work at the refinery. As part of the refinery's process safety management, we also regularly evaluate our process systems and identify hazards. Contractors have the right to access this information on how we address the hazards. Wynnewood Refinery maintains a safety program conforming to the best practices in our field. To be successful, such a program must embody proper attitudes about injury and accident prevention on the part of both the employees and contractors. It requires the cooperation in all safety and health matters, not only of the employer and employee, but between the employee and all co-workers. Our goal is zero accidents. Safety is no accident. think safety and the job will be safer. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask any Wynnewood Refining Company personnel. Be safe and have a great day.